What's up, YouTube? We are back with episode 8 of the Super Deformed Gamescast, where we sit around and talk about all the video gaming nerdy bullshit that's happened during the past week, and we have fun doing it. And we've got a very special guest tonight. Daniel Ahmad is with us. Dan, how you doing, buddy?
I'm good. How you guys doing?
Well, I'm doing really good now that you're
Doing
here.
good. I'm doing good.
I'm good.
Awesome.
So, a little bit about who Dan is. Dan is, I don't know, Dan, how would you describe yourself? An analyst, an industry analyst?
So I actually work in the telecommunications industry as an analyst there. So think kind of AT&T, for you guys in the US, a company like that. But as a side hobby, one thing that I really love is the video games industry. So what I'd like to do is apply I guess the same sort of stuff I'm doing in my real work over to the video games industry. So I like analyzing, the big three within consoles, PC gaming as well, mobile gaming. Really just kind of discussing what's happening in that space and where it's moving forward in the future.
That's awesome, dude. Well, and that's kind of why I invited you onto the program, other than you being a really cool dude on Twitter.
Thanks.
I know a lot of people are curious as to how the PS4, the Xbox One, and the Wii U have been performing thus far. I know that the Wii U came out a year earlier. And what a lot of people are wondering is, one, have these consoles exceeded or underperformed what's been expected of them? And really, what are your predictions for the holiday season going forward? And do you foresee like a peak year for any of these consoles? And I mean, other than that, you have the floor, so please, I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Okay. Well, we're into the 8th generation of consoles now. Video gaming is maturing quite a lot. It's an industry that's still quite young. So 40 years I think since the first console came out, and what we're seeing really is that there is still a lot of growth left in the industry. When it comes to the big three, I think the growth is slowing down a bit there for consoles. But when you look outside of consoles, you've got PC gaming, which is going through a bit of a renaissance at the moment, really, when you think about it. And then mobile gaming has come out of nowhere, really, and is very shortly going to even overtake console revenues. So gaming as a whole, yeah, it's still very much alive. It is growing, really thanks to mobile and PC. When it comes to the big three, I think when you were talking about underperforming, certainly Nintendo, if you look at them over the past couple of years with the Wii U, they've gone from a console which had an install base of 100 million to somewhere to 10 million, which is a very big drop when you think about it. Even though the PlayStation 4 is, when you align launches with the PS3 or PS2, is doing a lot better. Same with the Xbox One as well in comparison to 360 and the original Xbox. It's still not able to make up that kind of gap that we've seen with the loss of a lot of customers from the Nintendo side. So whilst the industry is still quite healthy, we've definitely seen a contraction in the number of people buying 8th gen consoles and currently installed at the moment.
Can I ask you a question about that?
Sure, go on.
I mean, you use the word contraction, and a lot of people tend to put a kind of negative connotation on that. In this instance, is that really a bad thing? I mean, when you're talking about sales of the industry as a whole, and I'm talking like if you're combining PS4, Xbox One, and Wii U sales. I mean, obviously, there's been that contraction there, but a lot of people would say, well, that's due to the huge difference in user base between the Wii U and the Wii. I mean, does that kind of factor into what you're saying a little bit?
So when I'm talking about contraction, it really is just kind of the number of users who are buying consoles at the moment. When you look at kind of software revenue and what's being generated outside of just console sales, it's still in the same place as it was before. So despite there being less users, revenue is still the same, and that's really thanks to publishers who are, I guess, taking a few more risks with their IPs, but also extending the life cycle of their games, whether that's through DLC or season passes or other kind of, I guess, extension tools. We're seeing now the publishers are basically still generating a good amount of revenue, despite there being less users in the overall install base.
So can I ask you if your numbers are considering maybe what the point of market saturation would be, for the consoles? Is it just true that the user base is mostly bought up the consoles in the first 2 years, and then in the third year you're going to see slowing console sales? Is that just part of it?
So generally, that is the trend, where we'll see the first few years be quite. I don't use the word front-loaded, but yeah, the first 2-3 years are very kind of well, yeah, front-loaded, I guess.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, it kind of is front-loaded, isn't it? I mean, I know the PS4 sold what, like 1 million copies. What was it the first day? I mean, I don't want to.
Yeah, so in North America, it sold 1 million units on its first day. Same in Europe as well. And in fact, in its first quarter, so November, December, it was the fastest selling console of all time. So there was about 4.5 million units that were shipped, and it was still out of stock during that period. So after the holidays. And so that's really an example of the pent-up demand that was there for Gen 8 consoles coming off the back of Gen 7. Gen 7 was a very, very long.
It was way too long.
We all know that. It was, so the 360 came out in 2005, and Xbox One in 2013, so yeah, 8 years. It was a long console cycle, and so that's why core gamers especially were the first people to migrate over, and yeah, they're a very sizable market, and so they were the ones who jumped straight into Gen 8. I think that we're still in those first 3 years, so we're still seeing growth. This year is going to be a lot better than last year, and I also would say that 2016 would be better than 2015 as well.
So you think 2016 is going to be like a peak year, basically?
Peak year, yeah, it could be. It could also just be one of many years where 2017 could be better as well. But I do think 2016 might be the peak year. It might be where we start seeing not a slowdown, but just not as many units being shipped as before. But then that also does depend on whether PlayStation VR takes off or any other kind of extension tools take off in the same way that Kinect did for the Xbox 360 back in 2010, 2011. Because if you look at the Xbox 360, it actually started off worse than the original Xbox. Purely because the PlayStation 2 was still quite big. PlayStation 3 was still seen as a main competitor really then. Obviously before the 599 and Xbox exclusives started going over. But it took a while for the Xbox 360 to really start growing as the, I guess, dominant HD console last generation. And then what really solidified that place was Kinect. So if we see something like that this gen, whether that's with PlayStation VR or some other kind of extension tool add-on, then we could see a similar trend to last gen. But if not, then yeah, 2016 would probably be the peak year.
I kind of wanted to get your thoughts on something that's happened just this week, actually, in regards to the NPD. And I won't rehash the NPDs too much because we all know who won.
Sure.
But I guess Microsoft, and I don't know all the particulars on this, so correct me if I'm wrong, but I know Microsoft released a statement saying, look, we're not going to focus on sales of Xbox units anymore. At least we're not going to report that information. What we're going to do is we're going to talk about Xbox Live, users and the level of I guess buy-in we have there. And a lot of people have translated that to say, well, the Xbox One must be doing very poorly. I mean, obviously that's not the case. It may not be selling as well as the PS4, but it's still selling a great deal a great deal better than its predecessor, at least when you kind of align the time frames. In the U.S., how do Xbox One sales line up with the Xbox 360 over the same time period? I think we're, almost at year 2 of Gen 8 now?
Yeah, so it's pretty much 23 months. So what's that, 2 years? Yeah, 2 years.
Just about, yeah.
So the 360 at that same sort of period, I mean, the 360 did start off very, very slow. And as I said, it wasn't really until a year after the PS3 came out and when the Wii kind of started slowing down a bit that we saw the 360 really take off. If you look at the first 23 months of the 360, it had sold around 6.5 million, I think, in the US. But the Xbox One is doing better than that. It's currently over 8 million in the US. So it's not leagues ahead, but it's definitely doing better than the 360, and I would expect that to continue for a while still. And I think going back to your point where you say Microsoft are focusing on Xbox Live numbers, that's really just a strategic shift for them. They've been quite vocal about kind of unifying the gaming experience across Windows 10 and Xbox, and so using Xbox Live as a KPI, key performance indicator, is really going to allow us as consumers, but also investors, to understand who's engaging with Xbox across PC and console, and really how meaningful those engagements are. If you've got, I think, 39 million subscribers on Xbox Live, that's quite a big number. It's I mean, obviously it's not the entire install base of 360 and Xbox One combined, but it's still quite a sizable amount. And if you've got even half of them subscribing to Gold, that's a lot of revenue you bring in there, and it's certainly going to allow them to grow Xbox Live even further and invest in the business more.
I'm sorry, it sounded like somebody was going to say something. Go ahead.
Yeah, I actually did have one question for Dan. When you talked about the market correction, particularly in the case of the Wii U, have you guys done any kind of studies or attributions on that in terms of, because the Wii U is kind of a cultural shift in a ways. I mean, it's so many people entering the gaming industry as console owners that had never owned one before. Are we seeing kind of what maybe you said it was a contraction? Would you maybe classify it as more of like a market recorrection?
I don't think I would, to be honest. There's always been casual gamers playing video games. You go back to the PlayStation 1, that was the first major console that really kind of resonated with mainstream audiences. If you look before the PlayStation 1, the console markets were a lot more focused on perhaps under 21s and quite a smaller audience. But PlayStation really opened up the it broke down the barriers of gaming really to a lot of people, and then that continued with PlayStation 2 as well. When you actually look at when the Wii was selling, the PlayStation 2 was selling just as well, and it was selling the same sort of experiences that the Wii had. So, for example, Guitar Hero was massive on the Wii, and it was also massive on PlayStation 2 as well. So, what that really tells me is that there were a lot of casual gamers on Wii, on PlayStation 2, on PlayStation 1. The reasons for that was because the experiences were just really kind of plug and play, really easy to get used to. The games appealed to everyone. There were a lot of selections really available, but also the price was a major factor there.
Yeah.
I think that's something this generation we haven't quite got to that point where, if someone's deciding what to buy at Christmas, they might not be willing to spend $400 on the console just yet. Maybe when it's down to a good price point, that's when we'll see more casual adoption. Certainly, right now, it's more kind of the core and semi-casual gamers who are buying into X-Gen. So to answer your question, no, I don't think there's a correction as such. I think mobile has kind of taken a bit of that pie. Mobile really now is a console in your pocket when you think about it. It's replaced all the usage cases for dedicated handheld gaming, and that's why consoles, dedicated handheld consoles like the 3DS and Vita, are doing nowhere near as well as their predecessors.
Right. And then the second question I had is, you mentioned it earlier, and we might want to get to this later instead because we're focusing on the big three right now, but you kind of talked about the evolution of mobile gaming, and this is obviously just kind of speculation, but would you say that that's going to kind of lead to a major decline in portable gaming systems, like, for example, the 3DSs and things like that? Because it feels like the mobile's kind of taking over for that in a way. Is that what you're seeing as well, or are you not seeing that?
It already has.
Yeah.
It's already taken quite a sizable share. The only reason that, I mean, when we go back to the 3DS launch, it was actually selling better than the DS. And then when the price cut came in, yeah, it was still selling better than the DS. But what kind of happened is mobile's evolved so far that it's now able to replace those usage cases. I mean, if you go back to 2001, we didn't have cameras on mobile phones at all. And if you look at the market then, you had Nikon, Canon. I can't think of any, to be honest, but I know there's a few kind of big camera brands that were around back then. But if you look at it now, it's completely different. The number one seller of cameras is Apple and Samsung and Nokia. Well, Microsoft now. So they're the ones who are selling cameras to the most people, and it's not because they offer the best solution. We all know there's what they call DSLRs, that's it, and other kind of high professional camera equipment that's in use. But when it comes to being good enough for the general public, phone cameras are there. They do an excellent job, and that's why the camera industry as a whole has declined completely. And the camera industry now focuses more on high-end equipment.
More niche markets.
Exactly. And I don't think we're going to see that exact extreme with consoles or with dedicated handheld gaming, but it's certainly going to. Well, it should get to that point in time with dedicated handhelds. In fact, I would say it already has.
Well, I mean, when you look at the downfall of handhelds, I mean, all you really need to do, just from what I've seen, is look at PSP sales against PS Vita sales. And there's your answer. I mean, and then again, look at DS sales versus 3DS sales. I mean, the PSP, Dan, I don't know the exact numbers, but I know it was a big success. PSP was a huge success. It sold a lot, and naturally the next step was to come out with a new handheld. The PS Vita, by comparison, sales-wise, pales in comparison to what the PSP did. I mean, look, shit, they're dropping first-party support for it only a few years into its life cycle, and now it doesn't look like the 3DS is going to sell even half of what the DS did over its lifetime. And the proof is in the pudding. It's right. The evidence is right there. You're right. It has already happened.
Yeah, I mean the PSP sold about an eighth of what PlayStation Vita has sold about an eighth of what the PSP sold. So, I mean, we're 4 years into the PlayStation Vita cycle now. You would expect it to definitely be selling a lot more. It's pretty much dead, really, when you look outside of Japan. Now, there is still people who want dedicated handheld experiences out there.
Sure.
And the Vita's done a quite good job of catering to that niche. You're seeing a lot more kind of Japanese games being ported to Vita. You're seeing indie games being ported to Vita. In fact, indies love the machine because audiences are engaging more with indie games on Vita than on some other platforms.
Well, and I mean, people want to play games on the Vita. I mean, that's why publishers love putting indies on that thing. I mean, if you look at the game, if you look at how many games an individual person has on their Vita, I mean, people who own Vita, they buy a shitload of games off the PSN store. I know I do.
The attach rates are very good.
Yeah, the attach rate's insane. I think for every I think the average is like 8 games per Vita, and these are all downloaded from the PS, and that's just the average. I've got about maybe 20 games on my Vita, and I play almost exclusively indies on it because there's not much else to play on it.
Sure.
Aside from Persona 4 Gold. But, I mean...
And Dancing All Night.
And Dancing All Night. I'm sorry, Brandon. Brandon got his Platinum Trophy. He's very proud of it.
It was a great game. I enjoyed the shit out of it.
Actually, I was going to download it this past weekend, but the Wi-Fi connection in the hotel was less than accommodating. I was gone the other day.
I am terrible at rhythm games. So.
Well, all this handheld talk kind of moves me to. I kind of want to talk about something else real quick.
Sure.
The NX, the Nintendo NX, the supposed fusion of console and handheld. Nobody really knows what it is yet. And nobody really knows what it does outside of having industry-leading chips, which could mean anything. But I guess my question for you guys, and this is for everybody, is it too late?
No.
You don't think so?
No. Is Nintendo doomed? No.
No, I don't. No. I don't think Nintendo's doomed. I mean, if shit comes to shit, I mean, let's say they decided to get out of the console industry, all they would do is go third party. They make a killing. I mean, no.
I mean, it depends what you measure by success. They're never going to be as successful as the Wii. That was like a fad. It caught on with a different audience. But I still think there's room for them to be extraordinarily successful with another console handheld hybrid. Like to catch a market in a way that the Wii U didn't. I think that they can bounce back.
I really want them to blow my socks off again.
Sure, I think it's still in them.
I mean, say what you want about the Wii. I mean, I didn't own one, but it was innovative. I mean, it used motion controls in a way that the PlayStation 3 only dreamed about with that stupid 6-axis shit. Terrible.
Oh, the 6-axis. Did you play Lair when it first came out?
I never played Lair. I actually never played Lair, but I remember trying to balance Nathan Drake over logs. And
Wait. Was that a thing that you had to do? I don't even remember.
You had to do that. As far as I remember, you had to do that. I remember falling off logs because I wasn't waggling the goddamn controller right, and God, it used to piss me off. Oh, it was awful. Six-axis was the worst.
It was.
It
I
was.
never enjoyed it.
It was.
I,
It was. Go
I
ahead.
think Warhawk was good.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
Yeah, no, that was all right. But I mean, aside from that, I never fucking used it, and developers never used it. I mean, I think the most prominent game I ever played it with it was Uncharted, and I used it to throw grenades and wiggle across logs, and that came out in 2007. So I mean, it was. But then the Wii came out, and like I said, I never owned one. But even I was just awed at the potential. You know, I'm sitting there playing Wii Tennis, and I was like, this is great. It's responsive. It's tight. The controls are tight. And I thought it was wonderful. And then the Wii U came out, and everybody was confused. Is it a console? Is it a controller? I thought it was a controller. I'm not gonna lie. I saw the gamepad. I said, oh, well, the Wii U must be a really snazzy. You know, it was in my mind what I picture the NX to be, like, you know, a fusion of handheld and console. And so I'm really intrigued to see what Nintendo brings to the table with this, especially when I hear industry-leading chips, because the PS4 and the Xbox One are pretty powerful, and Nintendo is historically, I guess, ever since the Wii kind of lagged behind the other two in the power department. When you look inside of the box, I would love for that to change.
I'd want the legacy titles. That would be the best part for me.
What do you mean by legacy titles?
Well, if you go on PlayStation and you look at the old stuff that they have on there, there's nothing really that catches my eye. I mean, there's some RPGs and stuff I'd rather pick up, but for Nintendo, going back and playing the Mario franchise, I mean, that's good any time.
Oh, you're talking about the Virtual Console.
I'm saying if Nintendo gets back into it, having the legacy titles in the bank would be really appealing.
Like a truly, truly, truly next-gen Legend of Zelda.
And like a real arcade. I mean, you look at Xbox Arcade and PSN, it's all pretty much indie games. There's not a whole lot of throwback, but with Nintendo, they could really do that effectively.
Don't forget about PlayStation Now, man.
Yeah, everybody's on that. Playing Order Up.
No, I canceled my PlayStation Now subscription months ago, dude. It's useless. My internet, I mean, you need a decent internet connection. My internet, I mean, dude, you and I can't even do SharePlay properly. So what the hell? I can't use PlayStation Now. It's fucking terrible.
But if they had that same concept on a Nintendo store, I'd gladly go in and rent an old Nintendo game.
Yeah,
So I wouldn't count them out.
I'm not counting them out, but I mean, I am still. I don't know. Like, we don't really know much about it. Do you guys think we'll know more like at E3 next year with maybe like a fall launch? I don't know. How does that sound to you guys?
Yeah, I would certainly say we will hear more about it next year. Nintendo themselves have said we will hear more about it next year. AMD even said in their recent earnings call that they've got a customer they're going to be starting to ship chips for. So, and that's for their semi-custom kind of division. So, I would assume that's a gaming product that they're going to be shipping. I would assume it's a Nintendo gaming product, since that's the only one I can think of right now. And what they're saying is that'll be in the second half of 2016. So my guess is, yeah, we'll definitely hear about this in 2016, and it should even start shipping in 2016.
I will be very interested to see how this thing is received. You know, when you hear console handheld hybrid, it makes me think of maybe a handheld that actually functions as a controller. Like, you know, really what the gamepad, in my opinion, on the Wii U should have been used for, you know, as a functional handheld device. There's no reason you couldn't have used it for that. So
I'm
I
not
mean,
sure.
Go ahead.
I'm not sure we'll see a hybrid console as such. I think a lot of people might have got the wrong idea with that.
Got their wires crossed on that.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that's what Nintendo are going for. I think when NX was originally announced, it was more of a concept for an online ecosystem where games can be played across multiple devices. Whether that's a hybrid device, we'll see. Whether it's a separate console and a separate handheld and a separate whatever, we'll see as well. But I do think we're going to hear a bit more about Nintendo's new online account system, starting with their mobile games, because I think that we're going to see people having to sign up to play Nintendo mobile games, not in a traditional sense where you have to create a new account and such, but where your account on that mobile game will also carry over to the console will carry over to the handheld, etc., etc. So I think they're going to go for more of a unified account system, which is what they've said anyway. and I think we're going to see that very, very soon.
Do you think that'll carry over to mobile devices? Because didn't Nintendo say that they're going to release first-party titles on phones, on iOS systems and Android?
Yeah, I mean, the online account system should be there on mobile. If it's not, I don't know what they're doing, because it really should be. To say we're going to see the exact same type of games that we see on console and mobile, I don't think that's going to happen. I think that they are going to tailor the games a bit more. But the good thing is that they have, these really well-known IPs. Everyone knows Mario, everyone knows Zelda, well they should. And where we're going to see those transition over to mobile in a kind of in a way that will work for mobile. So not as straightforward of a console game, but something that's tailored for a mobile experience.
So shifting away from the mobile stuff, what do you see as the biggest budget for a game in 2016?
Biggest budget?
That's an interesting question.
In terms of dollar value, or?
Yeah, for development cost.
Yeah, development cost. I think that's what he's getting at.
I mean, Ubisoft actually released a report recently that said they spent about 520 million on production costs alone, dollars that is, across all their kind of in-house internally developed IPs. So they're spending about 500 million a year just on production costs, so excluding marketing.
What does Ubisoft have coming out next year? They got Ghost Recon, The
Division.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously Assassin's Creed.
Well, if I remember this correctly, Destiny is the most expensive new IP of all time. I mean, I know. Yeah, I didn't for one game. Wasn't it north of 500 million just for one game?
I think it was, but I think that was also part of a longer-term strategy as well. So I'm not sure that encompasses multiple games or kind of as I said, a longer-term strategy. But what we are certainly seeing in the industry is, development costs are always increasing, especially now that we've fully transitioned into the 8th generation. So going back to Ubisoft, for example, their development costs increased about 16% year on year, and I would expect that to continue really. And so that's why we're seeing more and more developers focus on AAA games that will sell into core gamers. So whether that's an open world experience or an online multiplayer experience, something that's unique and something that's going to bring in a very large audience, but also keep them there for a long time, whether that's through, as we said, multiplayer, but also through DLC, season passes, and all the extra content.
That kind of brings me to another point. We're talking about, adoption of next-gen systems. I kind of want to tie that into what you think is going to happen, and what all you guys think really is going to happen with sales this fall. Because if you look at the games coming out this fall as opposed to last year, most of, not all, but most of the big titles coming out this year are finally leaving Generation 7 behind, with the exception of Rise of the Tomb Raider, which is coming out on Xbox 360.
And Call of Duty.
And Call of Duty, which will fucking never completely make the jump, it seems.
And Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 5. It's supposed to be coming, man. It's supposed to be.
I guarantee you it doesn't. Guarantee you it doesn't.
There's
They said
no
it was late 2016.
Because, dude, I don't think the PS3 or 360 can handle it. It's too advanced, man. Only next gen systems can handle Tony Hawk and Pro Skater 5. But all these games, you got Fallout, you got Battlefront, Just Cause, Assassin's Creed Syndicate, Halo. Next week is fucking Halo, one of the biggest releases of the year. They're all current gen. They're all 8th gen. So with everybody, if you want to play all the big games this fall, you're going to have to adopt 8th gen. So what do you guys think is going to happen? I mean, are we going to see? Obviously, it'll translate into massive sales, but how will that compare to the holiday sales over the past? I don't know. Let's just say 4 or 5 years. Dan, what do you think? You go first, and everybody else chime in.
Yeah. So this holiday should be very big. We're coming off the back of a price cap for PlayStation 4, the first one in 2 years. This is the longest a console's really ever gone, apart from the Wii and Wii U. I guess we'll just put Nintendo to one side for a second, but when it comes to PlayStation consoles, this is the first time we're seeing a price cut. It's only $50, but I do think that's going to translate into quite an increase in sales, especially as you were saying yourself, this is the year where we are migrating away from 7th gen game releases. we are still seeing 7th gen game releases across what I like to call, family-friendly, kid-friendly games.
Yeah.
But I think for the core gamer, yeah, 8th gen is where you need to be. This holiday,
You're not really gonna have much of a choice after this holiday.
yeah, no, that's exactly right, and so I think this holiday is going to be very big. Yeah, due to price, and I think if you compare it to, as you were saying, the past 4 or 5 years, it'll be bigger than last year. I can tell you that. Whether it'll be as big as, say, when the Kinect came out for Xbox 360, I don't think so. But that fits in with 2016 being the peak year for me.
I didn't realize the Kinect was that damn popular.
Oh yeah, it sold more than the Wii U did in I think less than 6 months, 8 months, 10 months.
Really?
Yeah, so it must be over 25 million or something by now.
No shit.
The original one, that is, not even the new one.
Do you
So
think do you think PSVR or PlayStation VR, whatever whatever they're calling it, do you think it'll do something similar? Do you think it'll be as popular right out the gate, or?
at this point, I don't really want to comment on it too much. We don't know too much about it in terms of price and market availability. Right now, what I would say is that I don't see it being a huge seller. I don't see it being something that's going to bring in a whole new audience. I think it's going to be something that sells into core gamers first and foremost. So the people who already have a PlayStation 4 will be getting a PlayStation VR rather than getting in a new audience. Also think there's a bit of a communication barrier with VR at the moment. It is still, even though yes we had it 20 years ago, in its infancy, this is the first kind of real big launch of VR for Sony, for Oculus, for quite a number of companies, Samsung as well on mobile. And I think there's going to be a need to kind of show what this technology does. I don't know if you saw the TGS conference,
I saw some.
but in that they showed an advert for the PlayStation VR, and what was really different about that is that they only showed the actual headset once during the actual advert. The whole time it was just people with kind of a see-through CGI kind of.
I saw that. Yeah, I remember that.
So what they were really trying to show with that advert is, it's not an intrusive kind of piece of hardware.
They're trying to focus on look how much fun you're gonna have with this shit on your face. Yeah.
Exactly. Because if they showed just the headset, they wouldn't be able to show the real emotions people were feeling. And I think we're going to see more of that, where we're going to see more creative advertising around VR, so that it shows off the positives. Because I don't think out of the gate, if you hand a VR headset to someone, they're going to go, yeah, I want this right now. They're going to love it if they try it, but I think communicating the advantages and why people should buy it, we're going to see a lot more creative advertising with VR.
You know what
push that.
You know what was missing from those PlayStation VR commercials was your friends waving their nuts in front of your face while you're wearing the VR helmet.
Yeah, I think that advert's coming next year.
Yeah, I kind of want to ask. I want to ask Brian, as our resident PC guy, or at least you're the big PC guy here. Is Oculus Rift Oculus Rift? Oculus Rift. Is that something that you're interested in, even remotely? Are you planning on going that route?
Not me personally. It doesn't mean that other people won't. You have to keep in mind. I mean, I guess how can I put it? I mean, the VR thing is definitely very cool, and I think a lot of people will be very excited to get into it. You got to remember, though, my last experience with VR was the Virtual Boy, which was, 10, 15 years ago?
How are you not blind?
And that was an abomination. I think my eyes still suffered permanent damage from that. So I think gamers my age, 30s and up, might be a little bit more skeptical of the new technology. Or what might happen is we might sit there and say, yeah, that's really cool. We'll wait until you guys get it really looking good, and then we'll jump into it.
Yes.
Now, that doesn't mean that younger gamers, 20s, late teens, won't be very excited to get into it, and I think that's probably, and obviously Dan, you'll back this up much better than I will. You'll have numbers for it, but I would think that it's going to be something that's going to be very popular with younger gamers. Older gamers will come around, but it'll take time.
Yeah, no, I could agree with that
Brian, I'm just feel really bad about the fact that your parents hated you enough to get you a Virtual Boy.
You know, it's like you got to remember though, like the marketing was really slick for it, and it had a very good PR campaign. And this was Nintendo. Remember, this was back when Nintendo was like infallible, so it was very hard to believe that they would ever make a crap product. And then it came out, and everybody was just like, "Oh, this is an abomination unto the Lord. It should be smited."
I can't laugh at you too hard because my parents got me a U-Force for Christmas.
Exactly.
You had the
I had a
U-Force.
CDI.
Oh man,
Dude, did you play one of Gamelon?
Yes, I did. I played all 3 of the Zeldas. Yeah.
I was gonna say,
And
yeah.
Hotel Mario. I beat all of them.
Dude, that's horrible. I've never played one of Gamelon, but I've seen the videos, and to
Yeah,
me,
you've seen enough.
it looks like what would happen, like if you kidnapped a child and put a helmet on him and filled it with hornets.
But you
and
need
made
to
him design
play
a
it.
game.
You need to play it to truly understand how poorly those games control.
That's got to be the only time I've ever heard of where Nintendo actually licensed out their first person properties or their IPs to another organization.
Well,
It was
you have
because
to,
yeah,
you have
the
to think
SNES
for it, because by doing that, and then when they basically reneged on the deal, Philip said, "To hell with this,"
Yep.
and made the CDI. But that also led to the creation of Sony, because they had originally contacted with Sony to do that, and then when they backed out of the deal with Sony, Sony said, "Screw it, we're building our own thing, and we're going in and we're taking your market share." And that's pretty much what happened.
There's actually a guy who found one of those old prototype Sony PlayStation Super Nintendo add-ons,
Mhm.
and he was posting pictures of it. This is a few months ago, but I can only imagine what that thing must be worth today.
Oh, sure.
Okay.
I did have one other thing for Dan, just kind of on the PC vein. What have you seen in terms of sales or kind of the market's reaction to the Alienware Alpha, which is supposedly their first big foray into this like idea of merging consoles with the PC, that kind of idea where it's basically a Steam-oriented console. Has there been like good reaction to that or not?
So I haven't really looked into it that much, to be honest.
Mhm.
I think what I was seeing there was mixed responses from that.
Mhm.
So I guess a lot of PC gamers want to build their own kind of PCs and
Mhm.
and really upgrade it at will. The
Mhm.
Alpha, yes, will allow them to do that, but at this point, I don't really have enough data to be able to say, yeah, it's going to be successful, or no, it's not going to be successful.
Mhm.
But from what I've seen so far, it's just mixed reactions. Personally, do I think it'll take off? Not really.
Yeah.
I just think it's trying to be something that there isn't a market there for.
Yeah. Well, I feel like it's trying to kind of merge. It's trying to be everything to everyone, to coin a very popular phrase.
I can, Brian, I can actually give you some real world perspective on this because I just bought an Alienware Alpha.
Okay.
I bought one a few weeks ago to replace my aging Toshiba laptop, and I can tell you this much. I mean, it's got so when you boot it up, you can either boot it up into console mode or into desktop mode. I've put it into console mode maybe twice. Any game that you play, and it comes. The cool thing is that it comes with a 360 controller, right? So you can game right out of the box.
Mhm.
But you can launch any game that you play in console mode from desktop mode. So, I mean, yeah, and of course I've got Steam and everything. So in that sense, yeah, it's a console / PC. But I use it as a PC, and to be honest with you, there is no difference, between running it for a game from console mode and running it from your desktop. There's literally no difference. In fact, in my opinion, it's more convenient to run it from desktop because when you're in console mode, if something goes wrong, you need, for example, the game crashes and you need to hit OK, you cannot use the 360 controller. You have to plug your mouse back in, mouse over to it, hit OK, and then switch back to your controller. That's a huge pain in the ass.
Yeah.
So I kind of agree with Dan. I don't see this taking off at all.
Yeah,
it's a great PC, but is it a console? No. Will I use it?
Well,
No.
I think the joke has always been that, I mean, among real people who play PC games, Alienware is kind of like the New York Yankees of the PC world.
Yeah.
And that it's like they've always been touted as these amazing people, but they're very guilty of using their name their name and they slap their name on a bunch of subpar computers, and then people overpay for them because, oh, I got an Alienware computer. So, I mean, I'd take that with a grain of salt.
Yeah, I
But,
figured you would laugh at me when I told you I had one.
But I do think that, I mean, I think they made a bold step in trying to create something that would bridge the gap between console gamers and PC gamers. But I think to kind of go with what Dan said, I think they're creating it for a market niche that just doesn't exist. Because, I mean, if somebody really wants to have both, it's pretty easy for them to buy both. Neither one of them is, a good gaming PC and a console are not at such prohibitive cost that you can't have both, especially if you're a hardcore gamer.
The
It
reason
seems like
that they're-
it seems like the Steam Machine is an add-on to your existing PC, and they start at $450. They come out on November 10th.
Yeah,
So I
and
mean,
like
you still need your PC. You just
Yeah.
need to buy one of these as well, and they go up to $750.
Yeah, and like I said, I mean, most people, I mean, for $750, I could take that to iBuyPower. I could take that to a variety of Newegg or whoever, and I could get a very, very good gaming rig that would be custom made and fully future-proofed. You know what I mean? The same level. So, yeah, I mean, I love the idea of like an upgradable console, but I just think they're creating it for a niche that just doesn't exist, at least yet, anyway.
So I want to I kind of want to segue into another topic real quick while it's fresh in my mind. This is a big week for Brandon. It's been a big week for Brandon because Guitar Hero came out, and this is huge for him. And I know he's got a lot to say on it. And I know Steve is interested to hear this as well because he got Rock Band, which I think that technically means that him and Brandon need to fight to the death.
Yeah, I guess.
I'm still bitter about it. I don't actually have the patch that's necessary for us to fight to the death yet. They release it in December.
They'll release it in December. Brandon, I wanted to get your thoughts on Guitar Hero, what you thought, and did it live up to your expectations? I
Yes.
guess a mini review, kind of.
Sure. So as much as Steve is disappointed in Rock Band, I guess I'm excited about Guitar Hero. I've probably played about 20 hours since Tuesday. My biggest apprehension going in, and when the game was first announced, I guess like most people, would be how that they were going to execute on the live crowd aspect of it with the FMV kind of stuff. And instead of being lame and cheesy, it actually it adds to the experience. Like I feel like it's very much like a one-off thing. If they ever make a sequel, they should try to do something else. But it's neat for what it is because you're only going to be playing through the campaign for. You're probably just going to play through those songs once and then move on to the TV mode. And that's where that's where they put the most effort into it.
What's the TV mode?
So it's kind of think of it more like Guitar Hero Radio, Guitar Hero Jukebox, something like that. They give you 2 streaming channels.
So in regards to the set list, I was curious as to whether or not it suffered from the same problem that Rock Band did. And what I mean is, are a lot of the songs just covers by bands you've never fucking heard of?
On the on-disc songs that you play through with the live crowd, that you get it's hard to tell. I wasn't paying that close attention, but on the GHTV, you're getting it's the original songs, but they're not the stems, I guess, because in the original games, when you would mess up a note, it would mute out the guitar but play the rest of the track. So in this one, it just mutes the thing. It still plays like a clunk noise that you failed out, but it doesn't mute just the guitar part because it's also playing the music videos in the background. So if you stop playing the song, the note highway will just disappear and let you listen to the music video.
Is there
Cool for parties.
is there anything on the level of Through the Fire and Flames yet?
No.
No.
I don't. Yeah, even with the new button layout, which adds another button, no, I don't think they just didn't chart the game up that high.
Speaking of charts, I was curious as to what you guys thought, and Dan, you especially. How do we think that Rock Band and Guitar Hero are going to sell? And we had touched on this, Dan, in an earlier podcast, and Steve, especially Steve and Brandon and I had talked about the fact that this could, at least in our opinion, probably be considered a niche franchise. I mean, it's been 5 years since the last Guitar Hero, and I think about the same for the last Rock Band. And we're wondering, has that crowd moved on? I mean, I'm looking at Amazon right now, right? I know, and I'm not talking the hourlies. I know that's a poor indicator of what's happening. But if you look at the monthly sales for October, neither of those games are nowhere to be found in the top 50. I think the closest you get is the. Oh, never mind. So you got Rock Band at number 35. which is sitting comfortably behind FIFA, Uncharted, the Nathan Drake collection, and Halo 5, and a bunch of controllers and consoles and gift cards. So, I mean, how do we think these games are going to sell, especially considering you've got a huge slew of massive releases coming up next month?
Yes, Guitar Hero was massive. Going back when it was on PlayStation 2, PlayStation 3, Nintendo Wii, Xbox 360, probably some other console I've forgotten. But yeah, it was absolutely massive. What kind of happened was it was the same game year after year. I know that works with sports games and multiplayer kind of online shooters such as Call of Duty. But what we saw was that the audience kind of migrated away from Guitar Hero towards other devices, and that's why when you look at Guitar Hero especially, it's still coming to PlayStation 3, it's still coming to Xbox 360, it's coming to iOS as well.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, I think they released it last week on iOS.
Yeah, it's up.
So, they really are trying to, they want to release it on Gen 8, obviously, and get the core console base back into Guitar Hero. But they are also keeping it on last gen, and also where some of the audience would have migrated to, which is mobile. I think if you look at, as I was saying earlier in the show, if you look at kind of the family-friendly games or kid-friendly games, using, for example, MPD this month, you had Disney Infinity in the top 10, but the number one selling SKU wasn't PS4, Xbox One, it was Xbox 360, and the same goes for Minecraft as well, where it's still seeing more sales on Xbox 360 and PS4.
Minecraft is never leaving the top 10.
Yeah, it's an absolute beast, really, when you think about it. And so those kind of games, the family-friendly games, kid-friendly games, they've always done better on last-gen consoles, purely because that market hasn't really transitioned over to Gen 8 just yet. And if they have transitioned over somewhere, most likely that's mobile, or it's maybe even PC, for example. And that goes back to what I was saying around price being a bit of a prohibitor at the moment for really kind of casual games moving to Gen 8, and Guitar Hero is a casual game. So that's why this is going to last gen, that's why it's going to mobile.
This is the most casual Guitar Hero that it's ever been.
Exactly.
Really?
This game is casual in so many ways. Like just the fact that it's streaming radio stations instead of DLC is casual as fuck.
Interesting.
Yeah. And that's a good monetization model as well for them, because it means they're not taking a risk on the core game itself. And that they are able to make the money back if they need to. So I think it's a smart move bringing it back, and I think it's an even smarter move making it available for multiple gaming platforms, really, when you think about it. So will it do as well as it did before? No, not at all. Not in terms of raw unit sales, but in terms of, I guess, bringing some of that brand awareness back and trying to target the users that were playing it originally, I think it will do a good enough job.
So I'm curious, how the hell do you fucking play Guitar Hero on iOS? Was it just touchscreen? Did you just tap the notes?
No, you can. It's a separate guitar. You cannot use the PlayStation 4 guitar for some reason. You have to buy a separate guitar and then connect it through Bluetooth. Yeah, but it's like it just uses the screen as a display, and then you use a guitar.
That's interesting. You say that, for you, Brandon, to say that it's casual. That's the first time I'd heard the word casual in Guitar Hero Live.
Yeah, no, this one is extremely casual, and in so many ways, in so many little ways. And I don't say
the reason they brought it back.
They've streamlined it in a lot of ways. Mm-hmm. It's not as much about mastering the songs. It's more of an arcade experience than it was before, even.
So you guys don't think that this is, by any stretch of the imagination, being marketed to the core gamer anymore?
No, that's Rock Band. Yeah, they're even just going. They're trying to separate themselves from Rock Band in a way that the other games didn't. The Neversoft games did not.
Steve, what's your opinion on Rock Band? Has that kind of gone the same way as Guitar Hero, or do you agree with Brandon? Is that geared more towards a core gamer now?
Well, no, I think it's at least more than what Brandon's noticed on the Guitar Hero side. But Rock Band is so dedicated to having people look up stuff and things like that. They haven't fully mapped all of their menu items. So you'll click on menu items that'll just time out, like their online multiplayer store. So
the Guitar Hero UI is one of the best things. It's super slick. There's not a lot of clutter. It's very simple.
So yeah, I'm kind of making a joke in that you'll have to go and do research independent of the game to find out what the hell's wrong with the game. So you have to be hardcore enough to do that. But yeah, the set lists are challenging. The other part, they had the hardware upgrades. Their guitars now have these little sensors in them that will help them calibrate, except that they don't work right, at least with my setup. I haven't tried them on multiple setups. They calibrate, and you have to go in and play a song before you realize, hey, this isn't right.
I remember the old guitars had
Okay.
had little IR sensors on them or whatever. You would like hold it up to like a flashing screen, and then it would calibrate that way.
Same thing.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, it's Mad Catz rehashing that technology, except that it doesn't work and you have to manually do it anyway.
It never worked for me in the old ones. Yeah, I tried it like twice and couldn't get it.
It's the same thing. And yeah, you have to kind of go out of your way to manually calibrate it anyway. You have to go all the way back into the menus to do that. So
Guitar Hero's calibration isn't very good either, actually.
So unfortunately, anytime you ask me about Rock Band, you're just going to hear another long list of complaints. But I was looking forward to it. It seems like if you get everybody in the same room, you might be able to play something locally. But if you wanted to download your add-ons, if you wanted to play online, we're still a long way away from that. Hopefully in December, I guess, we'll try it again.
Yeah, at that point I'll be playing Fallout.
I mean, this is on PS4. I'm surprised we haven't heard more about the Rock Band problems on things like, I mean, if they're going to release it on other platforms, those have got to be problematic.
What are you talking about, the patch?
I mean, if Rock Band came out on PC, I haven't heard anything about the
Did it?
problems on PC.
Did it come out on PC or?
I'm not sure if it came out on PC or not, actually.
Or was it just PS4 and Xbox One?
That's actually, you know what?
Yeah.
I'm going to look that up, actually. Hold on.
Guitar Hero did not come out for PC. I know that.
That is a really good question. Do we have a PC port of Rock Band?
I don't think so.
I want to say probably not. I tend to agree, but let's find out.
On PC, you gotta go with Rockstar.
No, there's none.
And they don't have any iOS related.
Yeah, I don't see how you could do Rock Band 4 on iOS anyway, though.
Same
Yeah,
way
use
you
the
do
guitar.
Guitar Hero. Yeah.
Yeah, just I guess by spending a lot more money on fucking instruments.
Well, if you don't have a console, that's your only option.
I guess so.
They also didn't complete it on PS4, so there's that.
So, one more thing I want to ask you guys, and the reason I'm asking this is because I'm kind of staring at the Amazon page right now. Do we have any predictions for NPD console sales for October, now that the month is coming to a close?
Halo might steal it.
I mean, obviously, I think Halo 5 will obviously be the top selling SKU in regards to software. I don't think anybody's questioning that.
But that could push Xbox over PS4, even though they've lost the last few months.
I think it's going to be close. Now, you have to remember, all sales of Halo 5 on Amazon, for example, or on any online vendor throughout the year will count towards the October total. That goes for any bundles as well. So what I get from looking at Amazon here, and Dan will tell you, Amazon is not a 100% reliable indicator of what's going on, but it's a useful tool. If you're looking at the monthlies, as long as you're not looking at the hourlies, because they don't tell you anything. If you're looking at monthly sales on Amazon, in the top 50, you've got 1, 2. So you got three PlayStation SKUs in the top 50. And then you've got the Xbox One bundle at 27. I think
That's Gabe.
Sorry, guys. Sorry, guys.
Is that a police scanner?
It's my mother on the telephone. I'm so sorry.
Gabe's actually at a stakeout right now. The police scanner came on.
She's so angry.
Gabe, what did you do to piss her off so bad?
Okay, guys, let's keep going. Forget anything ever happened.
That's like the best moment of levity you could ever have.
That was
Pretty fun.
outstanding. That was outstanding. Gabe, I feel so bad. So I'm gonna be laughing about that for days. So there's 3 PlayStation SKUs in the top 50, and there's 1 Xbox One bundle, which is I think the 1 terabyte bundle for $4.99. I think PS4 might steal it, which is completely surprising to me, by the way.
I mean, you're just coming out of a price cut for the PlayStation 4. Xbox One, yes, it has Halo this month, and that's going to be a massive seller. Based on what I've been seeing around pre-orders for that, it's the most pre-ordered game. of the year so far, which is saying something when you look at, I guess, the heavy hitters we've seen so far this year.
Fallout and Battlefront.
Well, I mean, sorry, when I say this year so far, I mean that's been released this year. So far.
I got you. Okay.
I would assume Black Ops 3 obviously has more, pre-orders than Halo, but
You're talking console specific. You're talking.
yeah,
like,
exactly, yeah. So that's what I've seen when it comes to software. When it comes to hardware, when you look at Amazon, you got to remember, as you were saying, really, it still accounts for less than 10% of the total market share for the US.
Sure.
So it's a good indicator of seeing, which SKUs are selling and which consoles are selling. I think it'll be I guess a close month between the two. The good thing that we want to see though is if both consoles are up year on year.
Yep.
That should certainly happen.
Well,
that'll be really good for the industry as a whole.
I think we can. I mean, at the end of the year, we can, especially after this holiday, we can probably imagine that both PS4 and Xbox One will be up massively year over year, right?
Yeah, I'd imagine so. What we're seeing, I guess, with PS4 and Xbox One is that they're not seeing high sales through the majority of the year. There is a focus aboard holidays, especially last year with Xbox One. And I guess when you're looking worldwide as well, you've got, especially when you go back to the PS2 or Wii days or even Xbox 360 days, where there was a focus on there being a high-selling year, and the rest of them were all lower. What we're seeing, or at least what I'm predicting to see, is that we should see we should see years where sales are pretty much the same every year, where there's a very small gap between either growth or decline. So I don't think we're going to see a really, really high peak year and then a really, really low year after that or a couple of years after that. I think we're just going to see middle of the line solid sales each year for 3-4 years.
Interesting.
Yeah,
that was a really, really long way of explaining it, but
no, trust me, I'm a former Marine, so I need things broken down to me bit by bit.
Barney style.
I know, right? Yeah, same thing goes for Brandon, man. There's a lot of former military running around here.
I get.
So I'm curious, what are you guys playing right now? We'll start with Brandon.
So this week I play Guitar Hero and Guitar Hero.
And let me guess, Guitar Hero.
That's all I played, yeah.
Brian, what about you, man? What are you playing? Our resident Master Race, PC Master Race guy.
Well, I'll be honest, I mean, the World Championships for League are going on, which is very inspiring, so I'm doing a lot of League. I guess I will point out, unfortunately, once again, the Koreans established themselves as the master race when it comes to video game
I saw that. They haven't lost a single match.
SK Telecom T1 destroyed Origin 3-0, and then the KOO Wolves beat Fnatic, who was really the great European hope. Unfortunately, they lost 3-0 today, so it'll be a competition between those two. But that's mainly a lot of what I'm playing.
I'm not going to lie to you, Brian. None of that means anything to me.
I understand.
What you just said means nothing to me. Not because I don't care, but because I have no idea what you're talking about. But I do know that League of Legends is massively popular. And speaking of you, Brian, I want to ask you real quick. I know you're our PC guy, but are you jumping into 8th Gen with Halo 5?
I haven't made that final decision yet. It's going to come closer to game time. I probably will get one of them, if nothing else, for Halo 4, but I'm still up in the air about which side I'm going to go.
That makes sense. Dan, what are you playing this week, man?
Uncharted Collection.
Good choice.
It's been a while since I played them. In fact, I never actually finished Uncharted 3. I think I watched a YouTube video at the end and kind of just went, okay, that's cool. So it'll give me a chance to actually play through it properly. And I never played Uncharted 1. So I'm going to start that this weekend. I want to also play Samurai Warriors 4 2, which is a Musu game. So
speaking of that, I bet you Brandon can talk to you all day about Dragon Quest. What is it? The Tree of Woe and the Blight Blood. These fucking names.
I think you got it better than I could have. I don't know, dude. It's the wackiest subtitle I've heard.
Yeah, it's insane.
They always are, aren't they?
Brandon, you really liked that, didn't you?
I enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah, I've never been. I used to play a lot of Dynasty Warriors. I haven't played a Muso game in years, but I am interested in Dragon Warrior as a big Dragon Warrior.
Yeah, if you can rent it, definitely.
It might
Yeah,
be.
it's a good game. It's not a traditional kind of Musi game. It's more, I guess, action-led. There's a bit more tower defense kind of stuff in there, so it's different in the same way that Hyrule Warriors was different. If you played that or seen videos of it, so it's not a straight clone as such, but it's just similar and same developers as well.
Gabe, what are you playing, man?
Well, over the past 2 weeks, I have played Halo 1, 2, 3, 4, and ODST, and I can say that I am finally hyped for Halo 5.
It took you playing all 5 of those Halo games to get you hyped?
Yeah, you remember, I know, remember the last podcast, and I said I wasn't really interested, but I heard so many people talking about it, saying it's going to be great, and I said, okay, let me try replaying everything again, see if that can get me pumped.
You've been listening to too much of that Big Gamer Small Talk, man.
Wait?
You've been listening to guys like Crap Gamer.
No. That never happened.
It's been a rough week for him.
Crap gamer.
It has really.
Seen his meltdowns?
I don't like name dropping him, but it has been a really bad week for Crap Gamer.
Yeah, don't kick him while he's down.
Yeah.
Apparently, you're not familiar with what we do here. That's exactly what we do.
Poor Crap Gamer. Oh man, I feel so bad for him. Sort of. Steve, what are you playing this week, man?
I've been playing a lot of Destiny. I tried my hand at Divinity Original Sin on the PC for a little while too.
It's awesome, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I found that skipping the tutorial just brings you into a brutal world that will punish you for skipping the tutorial. So there was that.
I did the same thing. I opened the game up and I was like, whatever, man. I've played Baldur's Gate. I know how to fucking work in a top-down RPG. And
well, they don't warn you like you need that XP because everything will destroy you.
Not only that, dude, but you can attack a chest that's locked, and you can break it, and there's items inside, and I just blew past it. I was like, whatever, I attacked the fucking chest. And then you just can't attack the chest, apparently, so I sat there for an hour diddling around with the fucking keyboard, smacking everything, trying to figure out how to attack the goddamn chest. And I had to start over and just play through the tutorial like a normal human being, because that game is incredibly not user-friendly. I will say that.
So my experience was a completely different game than what they designed. I went on with a friend. That person died. I tried to raise them. They died again because they died to poison, and apparently they were still laying in the poison. And I just mourned that loss for the rest of the time on the keyboard because I was trying to figure out, like, how do I raise this guy? I'm going to, like, people in town, like, help me. My friend's dead on the edge of town. They're like, I don't care. And that is not Divinity Original Sin. That is just a very sad experience of the third world.
That is why I am going to pick up. I really enjoyed what I played, but I'm going to pick it up on PS4 when it comes out this week.
I think so too.
Those are the kind of games that I have to play on console.
And I did play Soma with you. That was a fun Let's Play.
You did. That's actually going to go up tonight. Steve and I did a joint Let's Play for Soma, which is a horror game by Frictional Games, same guys who did Amnesia. And we were joking around, having a good time. It lightened the tension, which was good, because even with the two of us laughing at it, it was still pretty unsettling. Steve, what'd you say?
Yeah, I've seen other parts of the game that you've played, and I think those are scarier. But I mean, it still gives you a good feel for what the game is.
And that is what I've been playing over the past week is Soma on PS4. Great game, especially if you like horror games, especially if you're a fan of Frictional's older work like Amnesia: The Dark Descent. Brandon, which I know you weren't too big on, but Soma's a great game. And I kind of want to cap that by saying that Soma is going to be the first game that we have reviewed on our brand new website, which is www.superdeformedgames.com. The website should be going live either tonight or at the very latest by tomorrow night. And once the website goes live, our podcasts, including this one and everything we've done previous, will all be available to download on iTunes. So we have that to look forward to. In the website itself, not only will you be able to look at all our podcasts, we're going to have reviews, news from the industry, a link to Dan's website, and that kind of brings me to another point. Dan, why don't you plug your website real quick, man, because it's great. I've been to it, and I'd like you to talk a little bit about it.
Yeah, sure. So I've got a blog I've opened up recently. which is at zhugeex.com. So that's it's Z for you guys in the US, isn't it?
It
Is it
is.
Z or
Yeah.
Z? We say Z in the UK, so it's zhugeex.com. Basically, it's just where I write about the video games industry in general. There's always posts about sales data there or trends that we're seeing and stuff like that. So yeah, if you want to check it out, feel free to.
And we'll link it from ours, I guess.
There will absolutely be a link to Daniel's blog.
Yeah, I'll do the same for you guys as well.
Yeah, no, that'd be great. I'd really appreciate that. What else is going good? Does anybody have anything else?
I think we're good.
Are we solid?
Metal Gear Solid.
Metal Gear.
Fulcrum that joke out of here.
Please don't bring up Metal Gear, dude. I'm still reeling from how disappointing that was. The pain is still too near to me. All right, guys.
Such a lust for narrative satisfaction.
Such a lust. By the way, if Brandon, I think you're the one who showed it to me, but if anybody has not seen that video where somebody replaced Quiet with Revolver Ocelot, you have to go see it. There's a scene in the game where Quiet and Solid or Venom Snake, Punish Snake, whatever the fuck you want to call him. There's so many goddamn names that guy had. They're writhing around at Mother Base in the rain, but somebody replaced her character model with Revolver Ocelot, and it might be the best thing I've seen all year. And it was Brandon who introduced it to me, and I've probably watched it about 15 times now. It's a thing of beauty. You have to go see it.
Put it on your Twitter, and I'll check it out.
I will, actually. Or you know what? You can stop being a lazy ass and just go Google it on YouTube.
Just
what about
put
that?
It directly into my feed so I
what
can
about
watch
that?
it.
How about I stop doing all the work for you?
You're not the boss of me.
I am the boss of you. So if nobody has anything else, I want to thank Dan for joining us tonight. Dan, thanks a lot, man.
Thanks very much for having me.
Your analysis is great, dude, and it's fascinating, and it'll be interesting to see if our predictions come to fruition this holiday and next year.
Sure.
It'll be to quote an often quoted phrase on GAF. It's going to be interesting.
Yep.
It's
yeah, hopefully plan on coming back, bud.
No, please. You are welcome to join us anytime you want, Dan.
Yeah, that sounds great.
You're always welcome. And for anybody else, this has been episode 8 of the Super Deformed Gamescast, where it's not always poetry and we don't always agree, but we always keep it real. And until next time, or next Saturday, or whenever we decide to come back on, we'll see you guys a little bit later.